So I'm starting here with a gel plate and I'm putting some matte medium onto the surface and then just rolling that out with a brayer. This is like a glue that anything you put into is going to hold tight. And what I'm using here is Brusho, which is a powdered watercolor paint. And it's really interesting because even though the color on the bottle will be turquoise or yellow, whatever it is that you're seeing as the title of the color, the Brusho actually separates into multiple colors. And if you take this little bottle and use a pin, or in this case, I think I used a safety pin, and I just poked some holes into it, it allows the watercolor pigment that is dried in powder form to spread out onto the matte medium that I have here. So just a little bit of tap. It's kind of hard to see, even though I'm working on a white background. The gel plate has some stains on it, but just tapping that color throughout the gel plate and then watching the colors bloom. Once they get wet, they start to expand and really just move out of its little tiny speck. Now, I did use a blow dryer to blow dry it into the matte medium, and now I'm taking a fluid acrylic and I'm putting that on top. The reason that I use acrylics such as the matte medium and now an acrylic fluid medium, and this is a pretty transparent, I think this is quinacridone gold. What's really nice about the acrylics is that acrylics are permanent. They don't move once they are wet. And using this kind of paper in my collages, I'm constantly using a wet glue. So by putting them into a medium that is going to dry hard and permanent, it's going to encapsulate all of those little granules of watercolor. Now I'm using an alcohol ink, and I'm just putting some spots onto the paper or onto the gel plate. What's interesting about this is that typically when I've used the alcohol ink on the gel plate or on matte medium, it creates these beautiful circles or blooms. But since I've put that Brusho, which is a watercolor pigment in granular form, it doesn't quite bloom the same way. So it's creating a different effect. This is all absolutely experimental. I have no idea what is going to happen. But now that I'm applying the alcohol ink, and now I'm using a blue where before I was using kind of a green color, this blue you'll see in the end shows up a lot more than some of the other color. But it's so interesting how it reacts. And I just have no idea until it's a finished product to know exactly what I'm going to end up with. So I'm putting it all over the plate and putting it in between some of the other color of alcohol ink that I use. And this I think is like an ultramarine blue, which is very dark on that quinacridone gold, or it's not gold, it's like an orangey color, but it does something really very interesting. Now, I need to make sure that this color is solidified in, so I will use my blow dryer just to dry the whole surface. But here I'm just adding some pure alcohol. some 91% alcohol just to see what happens with that and how it reacts with what I've already put down. I love using the isopropyl alcohol and the way it creates some really interesting textures. So I'll blow dry this whole thing so that it is solidified and everything is right down into the acrylic paint that I put down there, and I'm just testing it just to see, is it dry? Then I can add some more matte medium over the top. So again, it encapsulates everything into these 2 layers so that when I use the brayer, everything is going to stay put, hopefully. And then I can print it onto a wet strength tissue paper. So I don't want to keep brayering over and over. I'm just not sure exactly how much will come up. Hopefully it's good and dry so it won't. But then when I put the wet strength tissue paper over it, to make my print, so here that goes down. Sometimes you get, by the way, some wrinkles, and it's just the nature of the beast. It's because this is a very wrinkly kind of paper, but I'm pressing it down. And then again, I'm going to take the hair dryer and make sure that it's good and dry before I start to pull the print and see what ends up happening. So by drying it first, you can really peel everything off in one run. So it's always exciting. This to me is like the best part of printmaking, is just seeing what comes off of the surface and what it's going to look like, because you really don't know until you do it. And so this one doesn't have the very severe blooms that you might get with alcohol. It has a softer look to it, but I really like the depth that I can get from that. And this is just another colorway that I used, and I like the results.